Hari Om. Let's start with the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are doing the Panchadashi 7th chapter Trupti Deepa Prakaranam, and the whole chapter we said is a commentary on the Brihadaranyaka mantra Atmanam Ched Vijaniyat Ayam Asmi iti Purushaha Kimichan Kasya Kamaya Sariram Anusanjvared. So in this sloka, Atmanam Che Vijaniyat, one has to know one should know that oneself. Ayam Asmi iti Purushaha, the Purushaha, Jiva has to know, and was I am Asmi iti, I am existent, and since he is saying I am, Aham, therefore it is essentially a consciousness and existent that I am. And that Atmanam Vijaniyam, one should know. And why should one know? It's been discussed earlier. Who has to know? Purushaha, the Jiva. So Jiva has been defined. Who is the Jiva? Who is the Ishvara? And all that is being defined. Essentially, Purushaha is the reflection of the pure consciousness, which is Satchidanandam, which is Akhandam, but a reflection as though occurring in the Maya, and that is the Asuddha Sattva Swarupam. The Sattva Guna with the impurities of Rajoguna and Tamoguna, and the reflection of that is Jiva, whereas the reflection of pure Sattva Guna is Ishvara, that being defined. And the Purushaha has to recognize Aham Atmanam Vijanaya, should recognize. Why he should recognize? So that he doesn't have to suffer the samsara. So the whole analysis is based on to get rid of the samsara and be trupti. Trupti means contentment that is arising of the fulfillment that I am full as myself. And that is what essentially being discussed here. And in the process, a question was raised. He says, you are using I am, because once he analyzed the Purushaha, the Vidyaranya takes up the next word, which is I am. I am means this. This stands for an object, whereas I am, Aham, is a subject. And how can you objectify the subject? That is a question that was raised, and says, yes, it is actually a subject, and which is essentially Swayam Prakasham and Sat Swarupam and so on. But yet, even though it is the Aparoksham, that means immediate and direct, the teaching involves first is there is in fact Brahman, and Brahman, therefore objectification is required initially in order for the mind to start inquiring about the nature of the reality. And for that he gave example of the 10th man story, and there in the 10th man that one is looking for the 10th man. So even though the one who is looking for the 10th man is the 10th man, still he is looking and objectifying where is the 10th man. So he is looking for all over the place elsewhere, as though a 10th man is an object that has to be perceived. So initially the teaching is one who says, yes, there is a 10th man, don't worry, there is no reason for you to cry, because 10th man is there. And where is he there? He crossed the river and he is here right now. So that is an assurance as though 10th man is an objectified initially, and that's what is called Paroksha Jnanam. And Paroksha Jnanam then leads to, inquiry leads to the Aparoksha Jnanam, and that's what is essentially the 10th man story is used to illustrate that there are two stages of Jnanam, Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam. First you have to learn as though there is a Brahman, and that Brahman is nothing but yourself. This is being explained now with respect to the Jiva. Asti Kutastha Ityadau Asti Kutastha Ityadau Paroksham Vetti Vartaya paroksham vetti vartaya. Paschat kutastha evasmiti. Paschat kutastha evasmiti. Evam vetti vicharataha. Evam vetti vicharataha. Together. Asti kutastha ityadau paroksham vetti vartaya. Paschat kutastha evasmiti. Evam vetti vicharataha. So kutastaha asti iti adau. In the beginning, there is the all-pervading consciousness which is of the nature of existence and which is the nature of limitless, which is infinite. Asti, it is there. So it means you are essentially assuring that consciousness is infinite and it exists and it is limitless and therefore it is one without a second. And that is essentially a paroksham vetti. It is an information given based on the scriptural teaching. Scripture starts, Tadeva Saumya idamagramasid ekameva advitiyam. Existence alone was there before creation, and that is ekam eva advitiyam. It is one without a second. Therefore, there is no sajati vijati swagada bedhas. There is no differences of any kind in that pure existence. That's what the Chandogya Upanishad says. In the other Upanishad, it says Atmana eva idamagramasid. Consciousness or self alone was there before creation. So the existence was there, self is there. So there cannot be two things. It is Atmanam eva in the form of pure existent consciousness, because in the another scripture says Prajnanam Brahma. Prajnanam Brahma means consciousness infinite, is infinite. So consciousness is infinite, existence is infinite. There cannot be two infinities. It is a Satta eva chit, Chittayahyaham. So Sat is the same as Chit and Chit is that I am, has to be understood by the scriptural teaching. So Asti Kutastha Ityadav Paroksham Vetti Vartaya. Just as the 10th man is there and 10th man is right here, is a statement. Same way, consciousness is infiniteness, is Asti, is infinite, is etc. Ityadav, etc. statements are done by via scriptures through the teaching by Sravana. That's called Vartaya. So when the first time a student listens, he listens as though there is in fact. It's not the absence, there is no God and all that. There is. So isness is essentially paroksham vetti. So where is that God I want to know? Then comes the next inquiry. Paschat, afterwards, kutastha evasmiti evam vetti vicharataha. Afterwards, kutastha eva asmiti. Asmi means I am. It pure all-pervading consciousness is I am. Because everybody says I am. I am means I am a conscious entity and I am an existent entity. Consciousness is infinite is a scriptural statement. Prajnanam Brahma. In fact, the way the scripture says is that it doesn't say Brahman is consciousness. Brahman is consciousness, obviously Brahman has to be consciousness. But it says in the converse way that consciousness is Brahman. Consciousness is Brahman means it is necessary and sufficient condition. And sufficient means that itself is the Swarupa Lakshanam. That's why Shankara says, he says, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. He says that is a Swarupa Lakshanam. Why? He says Anantatvat. He just says Anantatvat. Means because it is infinite. So infinite, it has to be Swarupa Lakshanam because there is nothing other than that. So it has to be its own nature because it's not an attribute of the Brahman. It is its intrinsic nature. And that's what let's like H2O is water. So water is H2O and H2O is water. The converse is also valid because it's a Swarupa Lakshanam. Its intrinsic nature, wherever there is H2O, it's a water only. So wherever there is a consciousness, it has to be Brahman because that's what the scripture says. And therefore, so Kutastam stands for that changeless consciousness is Eva Asmi Iti. I am is that Paschat Evam Vetti Vicharataha. For that, inquiry is required. So first Paroksha Jnanam, then Aparoksha Jnanam. These are the two stages are involved in the knowledge also. Now he goes into the analysis of the Jiva more. Karta bhokte chevamadi. Karta bhokte chevamadi. Soka jatam pramunchati. Soka jatam pramunchati. Krutam krutyam prapaniyam. Krutam krutyam prapaniyam. Praptamityeva tushyati. Praptamityeva tushyati. Together. Karta bhokte chevamadi. Soka jatam pramunchati. Krutam krutyam prapaniyam. Praptamityeva tushyati. So, karta bhokta iti evam adi soka jatam pramunchati. So, when I know that I am, in fact, is the Brahman or totality. So, karta bhokta iti evam adi. I am a doer, kartrutva bhavam. I am an enjoyer, iti evam adi, etc., etc., adi. Soka jatam, that which is the cause for the suffering. So here says, what is the cause for suffering? That I am a doer. How can I am a doer become a cause for suffering? Because I want to do to get happiness. Right now I am not happy, and I am going to be happy when I fulfill this action, and the result will make me happy. So a conclusion that I am unhappy is the motivation, and also the action is going to make me happy is the motivation for the action. Therefore he wants to enjoy bhokta. Bhokta, enjoy what? Enjoy the results of the action that one gets. So therefore karta bhokta. So what is the problem in that? There is no problem as long as he enjoys, but unfortunately that leaves an impression in the mind that he wants to repeat that experience again, and therefore it's called a vasana. So whenever there is a kartrutva bhavam or bhoktrutva bhavam is there, it leaves a lingering vasanas either to repeat or to avoid. Depends on raga dveshas are developed because of the kartrutvam and bhoktrutvam. So therefore adi involves karta, bhokta and raga dveshas associated with it, and that contributes to sokam. Why sokam? Because whenever I have a ragam, anuragam means that I want this, I want this, I want this, and you cannot get everything what you want, and therefore you start crying. Therefore sokam, etc. comes jatam, soka jatam pramunchati. So once I realize that I am full by myself, how? Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogatan atmanyeva atmanatushtaha. Says Krishna, says that one who has no more desires because he is full by himself. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan. All are gone. Why? Atmanyeva atmanatushtaha. He is reveling in himself by himself, because the self that he revels is Ananda Swarupam, and also it is limitless, and therefore he doesn't have to go after, therefore no more sokam. So soka jatam pramunchati. So therefore you are crying where there is no reason for you to cry, because you are essentially full by yourself. So therefore the disciple, after going through the indirect knowledge, that is the paroksha jnanam, through the scriptural teaching, then it has to contemplate on it, srotavyaha, mantavyaha, contemplate on it, and nididhyasitavyaha. So one has to internalize the teaching. Internalizing is required because of the raga dveshas are still there, that is trying to go after still objects, and that has to slowly curtail, and that's what is nididhyasanam, and nididhyasanam can take the whole life itself, and that is required for the to sink in the knowledge that is gained by the savanam and mananam. And here it says, once I get aparoksha jnanam, that means indeed I am that from abiding in the knowledge, then soka jatam pramunchate. So all the suffering goes away. So that is the next stage in terms of the evolution according to the 7 steps that Vidyaranya has outlined, starting from the ignorance, the ajnana, then avrutam, covering, veiling of the truth because of the ignorance, then vikshepa, the projection, then the aparoksha jnana, the paroksha jnanam, then aparoksha jnanam. So all that, then comes the the sokam, the sokajatam pramuchyate. So you reject that I am not this, therefore I am no more a karta. So how can I be a no more karta? I cannot sit down. Even sitting down is also is a karma. So therefore, Krishna says this is what need to be understood. The karmaya akarmaya pasched. One who sees himself a non-doer while doing is going on. So that's the beautiful teaching of Krishna in the 4th chapter about what is karma and what is a karta. Well, action can done. Why action can done? Because prakriti vacha karmani kriyamanani sarvasaha. Actions are being done by the prakriti itself. Just be a witnessing consciousness while the body, mind, intellect are functioning. That's what essentially the krutam krutyam prapaniyam. So once I reject the notion that I am a karta and I am a bhokta, sokam will go away. So pramunchati, you reject the sokam means you do not have any more the suffering as a result, no more samsara. And krutam krutyam prapaniyam. So what is krutam krutyam? What has to be done has been done. That means you have fulfilled all your obligations have been done in that krutam krutyam. That which is need to be done have been done is what essentially that means no more the notion that I have to do this, I have to do this and I have to do that. It's being done without essentially by the Lord himself takes care of it through the body, mind, intellect. That's what to be understood. So krutam krutyam prapaniyam. So essentially the prapaniyam praptam. So prapaniyam praptam. That means mission accomplished. So one has the whole life itself is not only this life, life after life after life, punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam, jatare sayanam. So goes on because how many lives we have taken and at last come to the birth of a human being, and this is the end of it because krutakrutyam. Therefore, what has been need to be done has been done because what is need to be done is that I am already fulfilled. That has to be recognized. So praptamityeva tushyati. Therefore, he becomes contented. So he becomes atmaneva atmana tushtaha. He is tushtaha. It's called tushyati. So Krishna uses the same word as atmaneva atmana tushtaha. Tushtaha means the one who is contented by himself. That is essentially, that is the final stage of this 7 steps that Vidyaranya talks about. So he gave an outline for the 7 steps. So he is essentially summarizing all the steps here in the next sloka, that is 33. Ajnanamavrutis-tadvat vikshepascha parokshadhihi vikshepascha parokshadhihi aparokshamati soka mokshastruptir-nirankusha. Together. Ajnanamavrutis-tadvat vikshepascha parokshadhihi aparokshamati soka mokshastruptir-nirankusha. So he is giving completely list of those 7 things that I have outlined. Now he is giving in the catalog of that. Ajnanam avruti avrutihi tadvat vikshepaha cha parokshadi aparokshati madi sokam mokshas and truptihi nirankusha. So this is essentially Ajnanam, the ignorance, number 1. Avrutihi, the veiling of the truth by the ignorance. Because when I don't know, then it covers the truth. Therefore, I operate that because of the covering, then I take what is not as real. So tadvatu, similarly, vikshepaha, projection of something other than what it is. Because I don't know the truth, therefore, because it's covered, therefore I project something other than what is there. That is vikshepaha. That is the 3rd one. And parokshadihi. So parokshadihi means indirect knowledge at the intellectual level. And Aparokshamatihi. Aparokshamatihi is essentially the direct and immediate knowledge about one's own self, that is the Aparokshamatihi. And Soka Moksha, freedom from Sokam, freedom from the suffering, and ultimately Truptihi, means contentment about oneself. That means he is no more longing mind or a wanting mind or a desiring mind. And that is essentially what is being the Nirankushas Truptihi. It is unconditioned, the Trupti is bliss, is what is to be achieved. These are the 7 steps. One is the ignorance, another is the wheeling power, and another is projecting power, and Paroksha, indirect knowledge, then Aparoksha, the direct knowledge, then the Soka Moksha, the freedom from the suffering, and Truptihi, Nirankusha Truptihi, contentment, complete unconditional contentment, or the 7 steps that are involved. Is essentially all his deviating, just a detouring in order to account what is that I am. This is all related to the I am aspect of the word in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad mantra. So these are the 7 steps, and he's going to discuss each one again in detail. Sapta vasta imaha santi, sapta vasta imaha santi, chidabhasasya tasvimau, chidabhasasya tasvimau, bandhamokshau stitau tatra, tisrau bandha krutasmrutaha, Tisro bandha krutasmrutaha. Tisro bandha krutasmrutaha. So together, Sapta vasta imaha santi, chidabhasasya tasvimau, bandhamokshau stitau tatra, tisro bandha krutasmrutaha. So Sapta avastha. So Saptavastha, Imaha, Saptavastha, these 7 steps. So essentially, the Chidabhasasya Santi, it belongs to the Chidabhasa. Chidabhasa means it is the reflected consciousness. It belongs to reflected consciousness. Reflected consciousness cannot be there without the medium of reflection. Medium of reflection and reflection cannot be there unless the original consciousness. So all the 3 are there, but it is the Chidabhasa with the reflecting medium owns this one. What is that? These 7 things with the support of the Kutastha Chaitanya. Without the Kutastha Chaitanya, no Chidabhasa, and therefore no Buddhi also cannot have this. So all the 3 packages are there, but for transactional purposes and for the teaching is for the Chidabhasa with the reflecting medium, and therefore he says Chidabhasasya Chidabhasasya Santi. It belongs to the Chidabhasa. Tasu imao. This is in these 7 stages. Now Tasu, now is going to go list of that. Tasu imao, in this bandha moksha stitau tatra tisrau bandha krutasmutaha. So bandha moksha, that bondage and liberation, that is essentially tatra stitau, so are included in this, and tatra tisrau says smrutaha. So this or that which is essentially going to be considered, the first 3 are going to be considered. Tisra is the tisro bandha krutaha smrutaha. What is the cause for the bondage and liberation? Bandha and moksha sthiti. How does the bondage and this one is cause for it coming from the first 3 itself? What is that? The ignorance, that ajnanam, and wheeling power, and then projection. These are the three first things are important for the bandha, and the moksha comes of the second two comes from the paroksha jnanam and aparoksha jnanam, and the shokanasham and trupti comes later. First, these three aspects are going to be contributing to the bandha and moksha. So, manayevo manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. That's what the scripture says in the forgot about the which Upanishad. So therefore the mind is responsible for both bondage and liberation. Amrita Bindu Upanishad. In the Amrita Bindu Upanishad it says Manayev Manushyanam Karanam Bandhamokshayo. So without the reflecting medium I cannot do anything, but I have to use the reflecting medium, I have to use the mind to know that I am not the mind. And that is what the problem, a trickish point is. I had to using the mind, I had to recognize that I am not the mind, but I am that which enlivens the mind, and that what is to be known, and that is what essentially the difficult part of it is. So Chidabhasa includes the reflecting medium, also includes the original consciousness, but these belong to the Chidabhasa level, not from the original consciousness. From the point of original consciousness, there is no ajnanam, there is no jnanam, it is ekamaiva advitiyam, and there is no creation even. And from that it is pure, that which is Satchidananda Swarupam, jnanam, the Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Therefore there is no question of, that is called Paramarthika Satyam, Navagachati na manaha. Yadvyatva nivartante aprapya manasa saha. The mind itself cannot reach there and return back. Why? Because it is infinite, and that's what J. Krishnamurti calls it. Truth is a pathless land. So what do you have to do? If it is a pathless land, when I am suffering, then what should I do? Says, then you have to decondition the mind. So how do I decondition the mind? Who is deconditioning the mind? Again, the mind only has to decondition the mind. It is asking the thief to look for the thief. So it is that. And there is a confusion in the teaching also, unless one understands it clearly. So here, Sapta Avastha Imam Santi, Chidabhasasva Tasmyo. So it belongs to Chidabhasa. That's what he is trying to emphasize, that these do not belong to the pure consciousness. Both bondage and liberation and the paroksha jnanam, aparoksha jnanam, trupti, all that belong to the Chidabhasa only. From the point of pure consciousness, none of this is really required. So jnanam, ajnanam, both are at the Chidabhasa, at the Chidabhasa are transactional level. Chidabhasa means we can say Vyavaharika Satyam. From the Paramarthika Satyam there is no teaching. Even the Vedas are also only at the Vyavaharika Satyam. At the Paramarthika Satyam there is no Veda also. Even though you say Apaurusheyam and all that, it is eternal. Eternal is because even Vyavaharika Satyam is eternal, because Janma, Jasya Yataha, the birth and the existence is a continuous cycle. There is no beginning for it. Therefore, Anadi Avidya, it is beginningless, therefore it is eternal from that point. Only the one, if has to transcend the time is recognize the time is also Mithya. That has to be understood. So here we are going to talk about the Tisrao, the three aspects that are responsible for bondage and liberation. What are the three aspects? The Ajnanam first, and then Avaranam, and then Vikshepam. Ajnanam is ignorance, and Avaranam is a covering of my true nature, and Vikshepam is projecting something other than myself. And all the three are going to be discussed now. So what is the ignorance? That's what is going to be next sloka, 35. Najanamiti udasina, najanamiti udasina, vyavaharasya karanam, vichara pragabhavena, yuktamajnanamiritam. Together, najanamiti udasina, vyavaharasya karanam, vichara pragabhavena, yuktamajnanamiritam. So vichara pragbhavena, Vichara praga bhavena. So vichara prag abhavena. So vichara prag, before the inquiry started, means before Vedanta vichara, and before that, all that before, what was there? So before the inquiry. So what is there? Say, I am there. So essentially, what was there before inquiry of the... So Krishna says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatatasapi siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvada. Of the thousands of people, only very few people want to listen to this at all. Because even if you advertise all over, there says Vedanta class, very few people attend. Because the statistics Krishna himself gives, of the thousands of people, very few people are really interested. So everybody is interested, go after things, I want this, from birth to death. So therefore, it says, Vichara praga bhavena. Until one starts inquiring, there is no, this whole thing will be still in the process of ajnana, avrutam and vikshepam level only. So that's what he says. Vichara praga bhavena. And before the prag means before the vichara, before the inquiry starts, Udasena yuktam. Udasena means indifference to inquire into the nature of reality. That is Udasena yuktam. So say, hey, you want to listen? Says, why do I want to listen? I want to go and work and do this and that and all that. So therefore, everybody is running after what? Running after this only. Everybody is running after to get happiness only. But they assume that happiness is out there. So rat race started. Even if you tell them the happiness is not out there, they're not going to listen to you, because that's they have assumed. Therefore, there is a udasinam. We call it here. Udasinam is indifference to the inquiry. So manukshatvam, mumukshutvam, mahapurusha samsrayam, durlabham taime vaitadu daivanugrahetukam. Even to be born as a human being to inquire, because inquiry is required, a mind is required, intelligence is required to inquire. So intelligence of what? What kind of intelligence? It's not just a sharp intellect, because even the scientists can have sharp intellect. That's what sharp means. They divide. Sharp means is what which divides. Divides what? They divide this into this phylum, that classification of different things, and therefore they dissect things, and that's what is called Tichna Buddhi. But Vedanta is not interested in Tichna Buddhi. They want a Sukshma Buddhi, an integrating mind, not an analytical mind, but an integrating mind. Integrating mind is that mind which integrates, that means see oneness that pervades the division. Even though there are things are divided, want to see oneness that pervades the whole thing, and therefore in any organization, the top, the guy who is the chief, the executor, has to have an integrated mind, even though there are several branches, and in several branches, the sub-branches, each one is looking for their own self. But still, from the point of the totality, you should have the total vision of the whole company in order to succeed, for the success of the company. You cannot differentiate between the company, individual branches and all that, any favoritism. He has to see what is that required for the totality. That's called an integrated mind, not an analytical mind. That's called Sukshma Buddhi. And that is required, and that is very difficult to get, because it requires a mind which is subtle mind, called what Vedanta calls it, Sukshmam, and not a Tichnam. And Sukshma Buddhi requires a purity of the mind. Mind that is rajasic wants to run around. Therefore, the mind that is tamasic wants to be like a couch potato, sitting and watching TV all the time, or doesn't even get up. And therefore, is a lazy, procrastinating mind is the tamasic mind. Whereas a rajasic mind wants to do this, wants to do that, wants to do this. What good is this? Vedanta wants to learn around and so on. So that's called rajasic mind. But what you need is sattvic mind. So evolution is going from a tamasic to rajasic to sattvic. So initially when you are tamasic, you know Vedanta is required. I says get up and do the yoga asanas, do some physical exercise at least. So for him you have to whip him to do some action, so that he has to leave tamas and go to rajas state. So evolution is from a tamasic to Rajasic. And Rajasic then go to Sattvic. Once you realize that what good all this, Parikshalokan Karmachitan Brahmano Nirvedamayan Naschakrutakrutena. So after examining that I have been running around all the time doing this, doing that, what have I accomplished in the total? Yes, there is a satisfaction of accomplishment, but at the same time I am still unhappy because I am still longing for it. There is a lot more things to do, and so on and so forth. The restless mind is still there. In the Chandogya Upanishad, the Narada goes to Sanat Kumaras and then says, what have you learned so far? That's what the teacher, Sanat Kumara, asks Narada. He says, what have you learned so far? He gives a list of 60 or so subjects where he got his PhD. In everything you can think of, Narada is expert in that. At the same time, he is not happy. Please teach me that knowledge where I can be happy. And that's why Sanat Kumara says, all that you have learned is only avidya only. It's only ignorance only. What you need is that which knowledge, from which you know everything. Kasminno bhagavo vijñāte sarvamidam vijñātam bhavati. That's what is in the Mundaka Upanishad. A student will ask, sir, please teach me that knowledge, knowing which I will know everything. So that kind of knowledge comes only when I understand the very essence of the whole universe, and that is nothing but Brahman. So here is pointing out the very ignorance of what? Ignorance of my own self, and therefore people do not even inquire who am I. Everybody takes for granted they know who they are, because they give you, who are they? They give you, introduce themselves, I am this, I am this, I am this, I know all this and all that. I am related to that, therefore I am also big. All those things they give. Therefore he calls udasinam yuktam, and therefore vyavaharasvakaranam. So therefore it is responsible for the vyavahara. The ignorance of one's own self is responsible for the transactional reality, and therefore vyavaharasya karanam. And that is ajnanam, is called najanami iti. What is the main fundamental cause for it is because this is ajnanam, najanami. I do not know is what is the najanami. I do not know myself is the iti. Iritam, that is called the ignorance. So now we are talking about ignorance. What kind of ignorance? It says tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. This is from the tamas, please give me the knowledge. From the ignorance, please lead me to the knowledge. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of chemistry, ignorance of, because ignorance has not been objectified in that statement. Says, therefore, what kind of ignorance we are talking about? Ignorance is that which is fundamental ignorance, and that's called mula vidya. Mula vidya is that ignorance because of which everything else is. And therefore, that is the knowledge I need. Not the ignorance of chemistry, ignorance of physics, ignorance of biology. There are thousands and thousands of subjects, all ologies are there, epistemology, ontology, and so on and so forth. And in every field there is a super specialization, cardiology and everything that you can think of. The one becomes a super specialist in each, and all that is only objective knowledge. And what is the real knowledge? Real knowledge is that which removes the real ignorance. What is real knowledge and what is the real ignorance? And therefore this is a fundamental ignorance. Without knowing myself, I am transacting in the world. Therefore Shankara says in the don't remember anyway. So Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. That everybody knows. This is the Vedic statement. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. The Brahman is the truth, absolute truth, and the world, Jagat Mithya, world is neither real nor unreal, and the Jiva is nothing but Brahman. And after that, the next line says, Anena Vedyam Tat Shastram. says, Anena Vedyam Tarshastram iti Vedanta Dindimaha. That by which I can know these three, Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo, na Brahma Ivanayam, Aparaha, is indeed the Shastram, is indeed the science. The rest of it is only apparent science. For transactional world, it's required. Chemistry is required, physics is required, all those things are required, but still it is avidya only. But what is real vidya is the removing of the fundamental ignorance, and fundamental ignorance is this najanami iti, I do not know myself, iti iritam, and that is called the fundamental ignorance. So here he is defining in this sloka that what is the ignorance, and in the next slokas he talk about the avarana and vikshepa aspects of it. That we will take in the next class. We'll do here Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.